You're standing at the edge of the world, a place so cold, so empty, that even sound seems afraid to travel. But in the summer of 1997, something did travel. Deep beneath the waves of the South Pacific, NOAA's underwater microphones picked up a sound so loud, so powerful, that sensors more than 3,000 miles away heard it as clearly as if it were right next to them. At first, the researchers thought it was a glitch, a malfunction, a random burst of noise. But when they opened the spectrogram, they froze. The pattern wasn't chaotic. It wasn't mechanical. It rose in pitch, smooth, steady, alive, the exact shape of a biological call. Except for one problem. No known creature on Earth can make a sound that big. To match the volume they recorded, the thing producing it would have to be larger than a blue whale, larger than anything that has ever lived in the ocean. A single question began to echo through the NOAA labs. If this is a living creature, then what on earth is it? And so began one of the strangest investigations in modern ocean history, a mystery buried in the cold waters near Antarctica, where sunlight barely reaches, and where something, in 1997, called out from the deep. The moment the sound was discovered, NOAA's team began tracing it, following the faint digital fingerprints left behind on their underwater microphones. These hydrophones weren't designed to find creatures. They were built to listen for earthquakes, submarines, and the quiet groaning of the ocean floor. But the signature they captured in 1997 was none of those things. When the scientists triangulated the source, the coordinates pointed to one of the most remote regions on Earth, a stretch of ocean near Antarctica, where almost nothing survives long enough to be heard. The team replayed the recording again and again. Each time, the same unsettling truth remained. The sound rose in pitch, the way a biological call does. Smooth, controlled, intentional. And yet, there were no ships nearby. No explosions. No volcanic tremors. Nothing in the logs that could explain a noise strong enough to ripple across an entire ocean basin. NOAA had cataloged thousands of underwater events, shifting tectonic plates, collapsing cliffs, the low, haunting calls of blue whales drifting through the dark. But this didn't fit any known pattern. It was as if the ocean itself was speaking in a language no one recognized. And as the researchers followed the signal's path deeper into the cold waters of the South Pacific, one thought became harder and harder to ignore. Whatever made this sound, it wasn't supposed to exist. For weeks, NOAA's team tried to match the bloop to anything they had ever recorded. Earthquakes, ice fractures, ship engines, whale calls. Nothing fit. So they brought in specialists, biologists, acousticians, even marine mammal experts, hoping someone could explain why a sound this enormous rose in pitch the way a living creature's call does. But every analysis led to the same uncomfortable conclusion. If the bloop was biological, its source had to be larger than any known animal on Earth. The idea sounded impossible, absurd even. But the data didn't care how anyone felt about it. The ocean had spoken, and the ocean never exaggerates. As word quietly leaked out of the research circles, the mystery hit the public like a spark in dry grass. Forums lit up. Message boards exploded. People began imagining what kind of creature could make a sound, heard across an entire ocean. Some pictured a prehistoric leviathan, a survivor from a forgotten age. Others suggested a deep sea giant that spends its whole life in darkness, rising only once, to release a call powerful enough to shake the water column. And then the theories grew stranger. A few users claimed the signal pattern looked too perfect, as if it came from something intelligent, deliberate, waiting. Scientists tried to calm the wave of speculation, but their own uncertainty only made things worse. The truth was simple and terrifying. The ocean had produced a sound that should not exist, and no one, not even Noah, could say what made it. As the mystery deepened, the internet did what it always does. It began filling the silence. People started connecting the bloop to legends far older than sonar or science. Some pointed to ancient stories of sea giants that slept beneath the waves, creatures so large their breathing alone could stir the water. Others noticed something unsettling. When they mapped the bloop's coordinates, the location sat surprisingly close to a place famous in fiction. The sunken city of R'lyeh, the resting place of Cthulhu, in H.P. Lovecraft's mythos. It was just a coincidence. But coincidences this strange tend to grow legs on the internet. Soon, illustrations began circulating. Towering silhouettes rising from abyssal trenches, massive shapes coiled beneath drifting ice, eyes the size of lifeboats, staring up from the dark. And then came the stories. Anonymous whispers, late-night forum posts, people claiming Noah had recorded movement after the sound, or that the hydrophones had captured a faint second signal that was quietly removed from public logs. None of these claims were proven. Most weren't even believable. But they didn't have to be. The ocean is the perfect canvas for the human imagination. Vast, empty, and deep enough to hide anything. Still, beneath all the speculation and fan-made monsters, one detail refused to go away. The bloop didn't sound like chaos. It didn't sound like a rock slide, or a glacier collapsing, or anything random. It sounded intentional, like a call, a signal, a voice from somewhere we were never meant to hear. And as that idea spread, a new question surfaced, quietly, almost fearfully. What if this wasn't just a sound? What if it was a message? As a world fixated on the bloop, Noah's researchers quietly studied something else, a pattern. A series of strange, powerful sounds that seemed to come from the same region of the ocean, and none of them had clear explanations. The first was called upsweep, a long, rising howl that appears every spring and autumn as if something huge is stirring beneath the Pacific floor. Its origin? Still unknown. Then came Slow Down, a sound recorded in 1997, the same year as the bloop. It began suddenly, then drifted downward in pitch, as if whatever caused it was sliding, dragging, or sinking through the cold Antarctic water. And just like the bloop, Slow Down was so loud that hydrophones thousands of miles apart heard it clearly. Researchers noticed that many of these signals clustered near Antarctica, a place of shifting ice, deep trenches, and long stretches of untouched seafloor no human has ever seen. To the public, it looked like coincidence. To scientists, it looked like a pattern forming in the dark. Some of the team wondered if these sounds were connected, pieces of a larger puzzle, spread across years of recordings. Were they geological? Was the seafloor cracking? Was the ice shifting? Or was something moving down there? The uncertainty was worse than any theory. Because if the ocean was producing multiple unexplained signals, each powerful enough to shake the water column, then the bloop might not be a one-time phenomenon. It might be a clue, a sign, a single note in a much larger, much older voice echoing beneath the world. And as scientists drew the lines between these mysterious events, an idea began to take shape, one that would finally push them toward an answer. For years, the bloop sat in Noah's archives as the great unanswered question of the deep. But then, more than a decade later, something unexpected happened. A massive Antarctic iceberg designated A53A, began to fracture. As it broke apart, Noah's hydrophones lit up with a storm of low, thunderous rumbles, and one of those recordings stopped the researchers in their tracks. The spectrogram was nearly identical to the bloop. Same rise in pitch, same overwhelming power, the same deep rolling signature that once made the world imagine. A creature larger than a blue whale. Only this time, the source wasn't alive. It was ice. Colossal, ancient ice, shattering under its own weight as it drifted into warmer water. The team reviewed more data, icebergs grinding against the seafloor, shelves splitting like stone, glaciers releasing bursts of trapped pressure. Again and again, the patterns matched. The bloop, after years of global mystery, was the sound of a giant iceberg breaking apart near Antarctica, a natural event so massive it mimicked the acoustic signature of an impossible creature. The conclusion was clear. The mystery, at last, had an explanation. But instead of relief, there was a strange, heavy silence. Because if a single iceberg could produce a sound loud enough to echo across an entire ocean, what did that say about the scale of what's happening in the frozen South? The bloop wasn't a monster. It wasn't a leviathan. It wasn't a message from the deep. It was something far more real and far more unsettling, a reminder that the ice of Antarctica is shifting, cracking, and waking up with a force we are only beginning to understand. The bloop was finally explained, not by a creature, not by a leviathan rising from the dark, but by something far older and far more powerful. Ice. Ancient, shifting ice, speaking in thunderous tones as it cracked beneath the southern sky. The mystery had an answer, but the feeling it left behind was strangely familiar, that quiet, uneasy sense that the world is still holding secrets just beneath the surface. Because the truth is, not all mysteries roar from the ocean's depths. Some come to us quietly, unexpectedly, walking straight into the middle of human history. Far from Antarctica, in a small medieval village in England, farmers once claimed 2 children appeared out of nowhere, a boy and a girl, their skin tinted a deep, impossible green. They spoke a language no one recognized, wore clothing no one had seen, and claimed to come from a place that should not exist. Their story was whispered across centuries, just as the bloop echoed across an ocean. One mystery born in the ice, another born in the soil of a quiet English field, both leaving behind the same haunting question: how much of our world do we truly understand? In the next chapter of Earth's Hidden Mysteries, we leave the frozen South and travel back in time to the village of Woolpit, where 2 children stepped into the sunlight and nothing about them belonged to our world. The Green Children of Woolpit, England's medieval mystery, coming next.